For nearly a decade, the Main Ground Combat System, MGCS, has been touted as the tank of the future, the cornerstone of a unified European defense architecture intended to replace the aging French Leclerc and the German Leopard 2. However, as of April 2026, the facade of bilateral cooperation has fractured under the weight of divergent national interests. France has officially issued a blistering critique of German industrial stalling, alleging that Berlin's maneuvers have delayed the project by a full decade. This delay is no longer a mere scheduling concern. It is a fundamental breakdown of the 2017 Macron-Merkel Defense Pact. The MGCS was conceived in 2017 to ensure that by 2035, Europe would possess a system of systems, a platform integrating heavy armor with unmanned ground vehicles, UGVs, drone swarms, and artificial intelligence. The initial agreement established a 50-50 work share between the French Nexta and the German Krauss-Maffei Wegmann, KMW, consolidated under the joint venture KNDS. The equilibrium was disrupted in 2019 when Berlin insisted on the inclusion of Rheinmetall. This move shifted the industrial balance, creating a 2-against-1 dynamic favoring German interests. By 2024, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu and his German counterpart Boris Pistorius attempted to salvage the project by signing a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, in Paris, which divided the MGCS into 8 distinct technological pillars. Despite the optics of this breakthrough, the fundamental disagreement remained. Germany viewed the MGCS as a distant successor to the Leopard 2, while France viewed it as an immediate necessity to replace the dwindling Leclerc fleet. The current crisis centers on what French officials, including Minister Catherine Vautrin, identify as the interim distraction. Germany has increasingly prioritized the development of the Leopard 2A8 and the conceptual Leopard 3, or Leopard 2AX. By securing massive export contracts for the 2A8 with nations like Norway, the Czech Republic, and Lithuania, Berlin has created an industrial loop that incentivizes the longevity of current platforms over the innovation of the MGCS. The German strategy is clear: sell the present to avoid funding the future, one French defense procurement official noted. This focus on incremental upgrades has diverted engineering talent and R&D capital away from the joint project. For Paris, this is not just a delay, it is a calculated effort to maintain German dominance in the global main battle tank, MBT, market at the expense of French technical parity. The French army faces a capability chasm. The Leclerc, while highly advanced, is nearing the end of its operational lifespan. Current projections indicate the Leclerc fleet will begin decommissioning in 2037-2038. With the MGCS timeline now pushed toward 2045 or beyond, France is left with a 10-year window of vulnerability. To mitigate this, Paris has pivoted toward an interim heavy platform. The French Direction Générale de l'Armement, DGA, is currently negotiating a hybrid solution. This involves a French-designed turret, likely the Ascalon 140mm system developed by KNDS France, integrated onto a German-designed chassis. The EMBT ADT 140, Enhanced Main Battle Tank prototype, which successfully completed firing trials in late 2025, serves as the technical blueprint. The turret features a 140mm smoothbore gun, an autoloader, and integrated anti-drone hard-kill systems. While this secures French industrial participation in the turret sector, it represents a strategic retreat. France is effectively conceding the hull and mobility sovereignty to Germany to ensure it has a tank at all. A core factual dispute remains the primary armament. France advocates for the 140mm Ascalon, designed for high-pressure performance and future-proofing against next-generation Russian armor like the T-14 Armata. Germany, spearheaded by Rheinmetall, has pushed for a 130mm L-51 gun. This is not merely a technical preference, it is a battle for the IP crown. Whoever provides the gun dictates the logistics, the ammunition standards, and the export licenses for the next 50 years. The weapon is the heart of the sovereign contract. From a realist perspective, Germany's delay is not a failure of bureaucracy, but a success of national interest. Berlin understands that in the realm of land warfare, the Leopard 2 is the de facto European standard. By prolonging the MGCS development, Germany achieves three strategic objectives. First, it maximizes the return on investment for the Leopard 2 production lines, which are currently seeing a renaissance due to the war in Ukraine. Second, it maintains its industrial hegemony over the Leopard Club, a network of European operators that are tied to German supply chains. Third, it prevents the rise of a French-led competitor that could dilute German influence in NATO's land force structure. Germany is playing for time, and time favors the incumbent. By the time MGCS is ready for production, Berlin intends for the entire continent to be so deeply invested in the Leopard ecosystem that the joint project will effectively be a German platform with French ornaments. Paris is using the MGCS crisis as leverage in the parallel struggle over the Future Combat Air System, FCAS. In the air domain, France, Dassault Aviation, holds the technical lead, and Germany, Airbus, is the junior partner seeking equal status. The behind-the-curtain reality is a grand geopolitical trade-off that has turned toxic. France is essentially saying, if you stifle our armor industry in the MGCS, we will freeze you out of the cockpit in FCAS. However, this linkage is failing. Unlike the air domain, where France has the Rafale as a proven export success, the Leclerc lacked the global footprint of the Leopard. Consequently, France entered the MGCS negotiation from a position of relative industrial weakness. The recent accusations from Paris are a public admission of this strategic desperation. Diplomacy is the art of hiding a weak hand. France has just shown its cards. While Paris and Berlin bicker over pillars and percentages, the strategic autonomy they seek is being undermined by external actors. Poland's massive acquisition of South Korean K-2 Black Panther tanks and American M1A2 Abrams has fundamentally altered the European center of gravity. Warsaw no longer waits for Paris or Berlin. It buys off-the-shelf capability from nations that can deliver now. This creates a dangerous precedent for the MGCS. If the project continues to stall, the European tank will be an orphan before it is born. Smaller European nations are watching the Franco-German dysfunction and concluding that European translates to expensive, late, and politically fraught. The realist outcome is a fragmented Europe where the eastern flank is armed by Washington and Seoul, while the western core remains paralyzed by industrial protectionism. The MGCS was supposed to be more than a tank. It was intended to be a digital revolution. But realism dictates that hardware precedes software. You cannot build a system of systems if you cannot agree on the caliber of the gun or the weight of the chassis. The integrated robotic elements and AI-driven command nodes, the very things that were supposed to make MGCS revolutionary, are being relegated to the status of expensive add-ons as the two nations fight over 20th century steel. The unintended complication here is that by the time MGCS arrives in 2045, the nature of high-intensity conflict may have moved entirely beyond the heavy tank. We are seeing the tank's twilight being debated by two powers who are more interested in protecting their factories than winning the next war. We should expect France to move toward a more autonomous path. The negotiations for the interim tank are a face-saving measure. In reality, France is likely preparing for the de facto collapse of the MGCS. By focusing on the Ascalon turret and the EMBT platform, Paris is building a Plan B that allows it to maintain a sovereign tank capability without being beholden to German timelines. The German delay has ironically forced France back toward the Gaullist ideal of self-reliance. If Berlin continues to prioritize the Leopard 3, France will be forced to find a new partner, perhaps Italy or a post-Brexit UK, to create a Mediterranean-Atlantic armor axis to counter the German-led Central European bloc. In the halls of power, a broken partnership is often the birth of a new rivalry. The MGCS crisis signals the exhaustion of the Franco-German engine as a driver for European defense. When national industrial survival is at stake, the rhetoric of European unity is the first casualty. Germany will continue to sell Leopards to fund its future. France will continue to complain to protect its prestige. The ultimate winner of this discord will not be Paris or Berlin, but rather the defense contractors in Arlington and Seoul, who offer the one thing the MGCS cannot, a product that exists. Power does not wait for consensus. As we observe the shifting sands of European defense, the MGCS saga serves as a stark reminder that technology is always secondary to politics. The tank of the future remains a blueprint, while the rivalries of the past remain the reality. This is a global report. We track the power so you can see the play.